welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where today we've got the sort of puzzle that I think, well, it's very rare and very welcome. It's called Shimadoku, and it's by rockratzero and Agent. And why do I say it's well, I'm looking forward to it so much? It's because this has a perfect 100% rating on Logic Masters Germany, and yet only 3 stars out of 5 for difficulty. So I think in general it's fair to say, in the world of Sudoku over the last 2 years, and probably we're responsible for this, the trend has been towards ever more difficult puzzles. And literally we could do a 5-star difficulty rated puzzle every day of the week, which had a sort of enormous 100% rating. We probably could do a 100% rated puzzle with 5 stars out of 5 for difficulty 7 days a week. But you know, we're anxious not to have 2-hour videos, or what was the one last night, 90-minute videos every single day. So it is lovely when you see a fantastic Sudoku which ought to be more approachable. So I'm looking forward to trying this. It's been recommended and it was sent to us last night by rockratzero as well, so it's timely indeed. And it's a hybrid, by the way. The title Shimadoku is a reference to a logic problem, a Japanese logic problem called Shimaguni, which I'm not familiar with at all. But I've read the rules and I think I understand them, so I'm hoping I won't need to know the ins and outs of Shimaguni to really get to grips with the puzzle. But I'll read you the rules in just a moment or two. I've got a few things to mention first. I met Mark this morning, believe it or not. Mark was in my area in Surrey, and he popped in to say hello, which was nice because we don't get to see each other in real life that often. And Mark lives closest to our PO box, so he brought me a whole stack of stuff that I want to share some of it with you, because I had a birthday card from Sarah Brooks from Kentucky. Look at this. Have a fantastic birthday. And what else did I get? I got a mug. I got a mug from Full Deck and Missing a Few Cards. And this, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the webcam, but it actually has their puzzle on it. So they made this for me when it was featured on the channel, and that is absolutely amazing. They also sent some puzzles as well, which are great. I haven't had a chance to look at those yet. And then we had, I had a present from Pseudonym, and the instruction on the present was not to be opened until we reached 500,000 subscribers. And you're not going to believe this. Look what Pseudonym has got me. A blue bag and an orange bag. And if I show you what's in these bags, they're Scrabble tiles with numbers on them. So whenever I need to do a set theory explanation now, I've actually got the bags. Isn't that brilliant? So Pseudonym, thank you very much for that. That tickled me pink, and I was very, very chuffed with that indeed. And to all of those who write to us, with real letters in the post, we're most grateful. And if you want to write to us, there's the PO box in the video description, and that explains how to do it. So anyway, that was cool. Now I've got some birthday announcements today as well. Audrey from Manitoba in Canada, you've turned 17 today. So I hope you have a brilliant day, and I'm sorry to hear about your rabbit Toru. Kaylin, I think it's Kaylin, it could be Kalin. You've turned 32 today, and your boyfriend Jeremy told us this. Now, Jeremy, I like the way he expressed your age, which was as 2 to the power 5. I approve of that. But what I don't approve of, Kaylin, is that apparently you prefer sweet potato pie to cake. Let's not let this mistake spoil your birthday. But anyway, of course, I hope you have a brilliant day anyway. And Chris, you've turned 69 today, and you told us that you have an enormous chocolate cake set aside. So very well done, and we hope you have a brilliant day too. Now, my next birthday announcement comes with a huge apology. So Yarrow Crudson from Anchorage in Alaska wrote us an absolutely lovely email many days before her birthday, which I think was on the 6th of September. And let me explain. So Yarrow cannot eat flour anymore. So she wanted us. She was going to buy Mark and I a cake, and we were going to eat the cake for her on her birthday. That would have given her, she said, a great kick. Anyway, Mark and I traded emails about this because I was really keen. Mark said, no, we can't do that. So anyway, that didn't happen, but so stupidly, I then didn't put Yaru's birthday in my diary, and therefore I didn't wish you a happy birthday. I'm so sorry. I feel awful about that, but I hope you did have a brilliant birthday, and I'm sorry that we didn't eat cake to celebrate it on the day, and I'm sorry for all sorts of things, but hopefully you'll be able to forgive me. The only other news I've got, by the way, is of course about tonight. We're streaming tonight, 10 o'clock UK time. We'd love to have your company. Have I got the thingy here? Yes. This is what we're going to be streaming. We're going to be streaming ourselves solving our brand new app, which is a 500,000 subscriber special app. We released it on lots of platforms, all platforms. It's totally free. It's got 23 puzzles in it. I don't think we're going to get through all 23 today, but we're going to work through the puzzles to show you guys how to do them, assuming we can do them ourselves, although one of us will have solved each of the puzzles, because that's how we do the hints. We divide them up in half, and then I do half and Mark does half. So this evening what we're going to be doing is doing the puzzles that we have not solved before. So it could be entertaining, I don't know, but anyway, we'd love to have your company for that if you've got some time. Now, all that said and done, let's get on with the Shimadoku by rockratzero and Agent. Agent's making a real name for themselves, actually. Loads and loads of brilliant puzzles. The rules are as follows. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Shade a single group of orthogonally connected cells in each dashed cage. If you're worried about the word orthogonally, don't be. It's a very long, complicated word, which just means that two cells that share an edge. So this is saying that in each cage, we need to highlight a single group of orthogonally connected cells. So something like that, I think, would be a valid way of doing that. Shaded groups may not share a dashed border. Right, so what that's saying is, imagine we did shade those in this 8 cage, then I think that's saying that neither of those two cells could be shaded, because they cross a dashed border, and that wouldn't be allowed. I think that's what it means. Each region must contain at least one shaded cell, and no two adjacent regions may contain the same number of shaded cells. So if that was a 3-cell, so if, imagine that was, this 8 cage had 3 cells in it, that would be saying that this cage, and this cage, and this cage, I suppose, could not have 3 shaded cells in them. I think that's what that means. Okay, digits may repeat in cages. Some cages have 1 or 2 sums indicated. The first value given is the sum of all the digits in shaded cells in that cage, and if given, the second is the sum of all digits in the unshaded cells in the cage. A cage sum given as x is to be determined by the solver and is the same value in all appearances. Okay, so I can see that some cages have an x in them. So x has to be the same number. Imagine we worked out x was 5. X would have to be 5 in all of these instances of its appearance. But let's just understand this business about 2 numbers in a cage. So let's have a look down here. We've got 39/41, and that's applying to an enormous cage, but we can have repeated digits in cages in this puzzle. So that cage there, we're going to have to shade some cells in it. Let's say we shaded those. Then those cells would add up to 39, and every other cell in this cage would add up to 41, is I think how that works. So that sounds quite interesting as well. Do have a go at the puzzle. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. And I tell you what's shouting at me here. Look, there's a 1-cell cage. So that's got to have a 6 in it, hasn't it? Oh, I got letters then instead of numbers. 6. So that must be shaded because it's a single clue. And then every cell connected with 6 across a border must be unshaded. So I'm going to use green for unshadedness. And right, what does that mean? Okay, we've come to a grinding halt early here. That means that, right, Well, I think it does mean something for this stripe, this cage here, because we now know that this cage cannot have just one of its cells shaded, because then it would have the same number shaded as this one. So there must be at least 2 cells shaded in this cage, and we know that the we have to orthogonally connect everything in a cage that we shade, so it's either those 2 or those 2 or those 3, but it's always that one, and that means those 2 cells are unshaded. Oh, this is lovely. Yeah, okay, I get this now. Now this 17 cage can't have one shaded cell in it, and these 2 are definitely unshaded, so it must have 2 unshadeds in it, and they add up to 17, so they're 8 and 9. Oh, and now the X cage can't have 2 or 1, so it's got 3. Aha, I'm starting to see this. I'm enjoying this so far. So all of those become unshaded. This X... yeah, okay. Well, it is touching that cage, and that's got 2 shadeds in it. And it's touching that cage, which has got 3 shadeds in it. So that must have 1 shaded cell in it. So I'll do that to indicate one of those is unshaded. Right, and I now know something about the value of X, actually, because I know one of those cells is shaded and it will contain X, but in this box those 3 cells sum to X, so that means if these are all different digits they must be a minimum of 1, 2 and 3. Ah, okay, I've just seen something else. 1, 2 and 3 add up to 6, so the shaded cell here is at least a 6, but it's not a 6 because of the 6 at the top of the column. So we now know X is 7, 8 or 9. Which nearly means there has to be a 1 in that stripe, but not quite. If X was 9 and this was 2, 3, 4, that would be the only way there isn't a 1 in those grey cells. Do we know anything about this 50? Oh, well actually I know something about the 15, 11. This 2 by 2 here. The thing I know is that well, it must be split into dominoes, because you cannot make 15 or 11 in one cell. So 2 of these cells are green and 2 of them are grey. And as 2 of them are grey and orthogonally connected, that is always grey, which means these are always green. Now, what does that mean? The answer to that is I don't know. Although I am now thinking as 2 of these are grey, this cage is touching this cage, so only 1 cell in this cage is grey. So there is exactly 1 grey cell in those 2 cells. Okay. Right. Now I'm going to think about this 8 cage, I think, up here. Because 8, the maximum number of cells that you could make 8. Oh no, you can... oh, hang on. Oh no, I'm not wrong. I was about to make a silly point. Well, not a silly point, but a point where I'd overlooked a rule. Which is I was about to say you could only have 3 cells adding up to 8 in this puzzle. Because if you add up 1, 2, 3 and 4, you get 10, which is greater than 8. There is a knowledge bomb for you from cracking the cryptic. But here, then I suddenly thought, but you can repeat digits in cages. But of course, the only digit you could repeat in this cage is this one, which is unshaded. So actually, the maximum number of cells in this region that can be shaded is 3 to add up to 8. But it can't be 3 because that cage has got 3 in it. And it can't be 2 because that cage has got 2 in it. So there is only 1 shaded cell in that whole cage. Which... well, what does that mean? Anything? I don't know. I don't know how to get a grip on that, really. There is a single 8 in one of those cells. Maybe that's the way we got to record that. Because it must be equal to 8, because it's the only shaded cell in its box. Oh, look, these 2 are shaded, so these 3 are unshaded. Sorry, I should have done that immediately. That's going to be relevant. Okay, I thought I'd broken it for a horrible moment, but no. Look at this cage. It sees or it touches a cage with 2 shadeds in it. You couldn't make only 1 shaded cell in the 17 cage, or it would have to contain a 17. That doesn't work. So all 3 of those must be shaded, which means all of those cells become green. And that cell now is unshaded, because otherwise there would be 2 shaded cells across a border. So this is unshaded. This is shaded. That sees those 2 cells. They become green. That one must now be shaded in order to allow dominoes to exist in this cage, which means that's unshaded. And now what do we do? We've got... so if... Oh no, here. This is flowing at the moment, isn't it? I think this is going to be a popular puzzle because it does just, the deductions just come one after the other. So let's look at this cage. That's got 1 shaded cell in it. So this can't have 1 shaded cell because that's a border. So it must have 2 shaded cells. Although now I'm worried that there's a cage touching this with two shaded. No, this one's got 3 shaded, so that can have 2 shadeds. Right, all of these now become green. This cage can't now be a 2, so it could be a 3 or a 1. It's not touching that cage. It's only touching it at a point, not orthogonally. So it doesn't. What's it say? Across a shade. Some cages. Sorry, I'm just checking the rules. No, I don't think that junction is a dashed border. Not as I'd describe it. It could be. I hadn't even considered diagonal connection though. I think dashed border must mean, a proper border rather than that tiny point between this cage and this cage. Right, what about this one then? This cannot have 2 cells in it, so it's got 1 shaded cell in one of those positions, and that contains a 7 because of the clue. And the other cells, well, there's going to be 3 other cells in this cage that must add up to 7, so they must be 1, 2, and 4. So the actual population of this cage is a 1, 2, 4, 7 quadruple with a 7 in one of these 2, which is going to put, well, it's going to put some green cells in this corner. So maybe we've got to think about this 2330 cage now. That's two quite big numbers. So this cage adds up to 53. But we can repeat digits in it, so that makes sense. But those cells, by the secret, we can do a bit of secretage today. Yeah, those cells add up to 31, don't they? And how do I get that? Well, I use the secret. Now, the secret is something I only tell my favourite people, but if you're still here after 18 minutes, you're definitely one of those. The secret is that any box of a Sudoku, indeed any row or any column, because of the rules of Sudoku, contains the digits 1 to 9 once each. If you add up the digits 1 to 9, you get 45. So I know that that box adds up to 45, that 3x3 box. But I know those cells add up to 14. So that means the blue cells must add up to 31. Whereas the whole cage adds up to 53. And that means that cell, and that cell add up to 22, I think, which is quite big. Oh, yeah, that cell, can't be that big either. It sees 8, 9, and 6, so the maximum value of that is 7. That means the minimum value of these 2 squares is 15. They have to be from 6, 7, 8, and 9, therefore, because you can't put 5 and 10 into 2 Sudoku cells. So if that's not 7, it would be 5 next, and then these would have to add up to... Oh, then these would be an 8, 9 pair. So this is 5 or 7. But we don't know that this has a 9 in it. It could be an 8, 7 pair. I'm now wondering whether I can lock down where the shaded cells that sum to 23 have to be an orthogonally connected group. Right, here's a little point. That cell, I'm going to say, cannot be shaded, because 23 is going to be at least 3 cells. We could make 23 with 3 cells with 6, 8 and 9, but if we did that from here, those 3 would all be shaded, and now neither of these could be shaded, so that doesn't work, so that must be green. And now that cell in the corner is shaded. In fact, we can do better than that, can't we? Surely that one is shaded as well, because if that's unshaded, those 3 are shaded, and I've got the same problem with a shaded cell in one of these. So that's shaded, and that's beautiful. It's really clever. Now this cell cannot be shaded. So that means this is shaded, which means that's unshaded. And it's either going to be 4 cells adding to 23, or... oh, sorry, I've just seen I can do Sudoku. There's a 6 in one of those cells, which means that's not a 6. So, if that is... how could that be unshaded, is my question. If that's unshaded, those 3 have to be shaded, but then they have to be 6, 8, 9, and that breaks the puzzle, so that doesn't work. That's shaded. But weirdly, that doesn't tell us that this cell is shaded or unshaded, I don't think. Oh, maybe have we got 3 cells touching this? Oh, yes, it's that. Okay, sorry. I forgot that rule. There are 3 cells there in the 17 cage which does touch this cage. So this can't have 3 and must have 4. So actually those, now we know what this digit is, don't we? Because if we know those 4 cells add up to 23, but we know those add up to 31, that cell I think has to be an 8. Which means that cell is a 6. It means these cells, well, that's now not 8. And these cells have got to be 5, 9 and 3. And hopefully, they do add up to 23, so the world is working there. Now, if they include 5, that cell is now a 7, which means these 2 cells have to... what was the maths on this? These 3 added to 22, didn't they? So these now add up to 15, which means this is even by parity, because that's odd. So this is 6 or 8 and finds a partner there. So there's a 6 or 8 in that string. And okay, where do I go now? Do I look at this enormous cage? 39 and 41. This one is daunting, isn't it? I've got to make sure 39's worth of shaded cells is at least 6 shaded cells orthogonally connected, because that is, I think, well, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 and 4 add to 39, and that's the most you could put in 6. Oh no, you can repeat digits. Oh, hang on, no, this is more complicated. Yeah, okay. So it could be those 6. But it might not have to be. If you repeated a 9, like if there was... yeah, look at that. You could max out those with 6, 7, 8 and 9 and then put 9 there. And now you've done 39 with 5 cells. So this is more complicated than I thought. 41 for the unshaded. Yeah, I'm not sure how to do that, to be honest. Let's check this one again. This one sums to x. Well, it's shaded cells sum to x, which are not 2 of them. So it could be 1 of them or 3 of them. Okay. Right, sorry, I'm stuck now. Sudoku. Of course, whenever you get stuck in a Sudoku puzzle, if you're me, always think about Sudoku. Oh, look, here we go. Right, so the 8 in this box now is up there, which means all of these have got to be green. Which is actually not that good, is it? I would rather have had the grey on the edge, so that it would have, eliminated greys from some of these cells. This is 10 and x. We know x is 7, 8 or 9, don't we? Hang on, that digit therefore is 7, 8 or 9, I've just realised. So it's definitely got a friend up there. So there's a 7, 8 or a 9 in one of those cells. This domino here has to add up to 7, 8 or 9. So does this domino, I suppose. That couldn't have a solitary 7 in. That's rather pretty. I think that's right. Okay, this cage here, I know it doesn't have 2 shaded cells in it, so it either has 3 or it has 1. Now, whether it has 3 or 1, x cannot be 7 now, I'm going to claim, because if this had 1 shaded cell in it, it would need to be a 7, and the 7 would clash here. And if it had 3 shaded cells in it, it would be 1, 2, 4, and those 2 cells would both then have to be 7, and that would break Sudoku. So x is not 7, which means that is not 7. In a way, that's the most irritating combination, because 9 could still not have a 1 in it in those 3 cells there. Where's another x? There's an x over here. So x is 8 or 9. So this... Oh no, hang on, it's a 5-cell region. So, okay, this 5-cell region overall adds up to 18 or 19. No, that's not interesting. Okay. I've not looked at this cage. 21 cage. So this cage has to be... Well, 20... okay. Oh yeah, this is good. So 21 must be at least 3 cells, because I can't make 9 and 8 add up to 21 no matter how hard I try. And even the repeated digit isn't a problem here. So those 3, or these 3, would be the least, which means that is always shaded, and therefore that is not shaded. And therefore this is shaded, which means, this is great. So that's not shaded. And now to orthogonally connect 3 in this box, I've got to take the bottom 3, which shades this one, or unshades this one. Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. Right, now look, come back to this 10 cage. Now this 10 cage is orthogonally adjacent to a cage with 3 shadeds, with 2 shadeds, and one of these 8s is a 1 shaded cage. So this cannot have 1, 2 or 3 shaded cells in it. So it's got 4 shaded cells which sum to 10, which are a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple, and that's got x in it, which we know is the same as that. So these 2 digits are the same, and oh no. Well, that's not helpful. That could literally go in all 3 of those positions, I think, still. Okay, well, that was nearly helpful. That cage doesn't have a sum on it. I think is that the only cage that hasn't got a sum? I wonder whether someone might have missed out the sum for this cage. That would be annoying. That's going to make the puzzle difficult. Right, so how do we make more progress now? I don't know. I think it might be this big cage here. That's interesting. Look, you know when I said you could have 6, 7, 8 and 6, 7, 8, 9 and then a 9 outside? That is still possible here with an F pentomino. I bet you it's that, because that's going to be so forcing. So why is it then that this area couldn't form the shaded area adding to 39? Is it because of this cage? Ah, well, okay, if that was 3 shaded cells. Oh no, it is. It doesn't matter. Oh, that's lovely. That's really clever. Okay, I didn't spot this before. I even thought about this before and didn't spot it. But there is definitely a shaded cell in this sequence. There might be 3 shaded cells, but there's definitely 1 shaded cell. Now, wherever I put that in this cage, you can see it's dividing this string of digits up, this 7-cell string of digits up. So if this was shaded, the longest sequence of unshadedness you could have in these would be 5 cells in the same box. They could only add up to 35. That's not the same number as 39. If this is shaded, the longest sequence becomes 4 cells. If this is shaded, it's 3 cells. So there's no way to put enough shaded cells into that L shape there, because one of these has to be grey. And that means these cells all have to be shaded in order to reach our total of 39, and I get a digit here. That must be a 9. This must be 6, 7, 8, and 9. That's not 9. Okay. Ah, got it. Right, now the 21 total here, without 9 in 3 cells, that's got to be 6, 7, and 8. So I've got all sorts of 6, 7, and 8-age going on in the bottom couple of rows. I'm really worried about this not having a clue, because I could just write this in if I knew what this cage total was. Right, okay, but now the rest of this cage, all of the rest of this cage is green. Okay, and this has to all add up to 41. Gosh, that's a raft of digits that have to add up. So all of those cells have to add up to 41. Well, the minimum value for those is 28. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That's the triangular number for 7. 28 plus 1, 2, and 3 in there would be 34. I could put a 1 in there, 35. And 1, 2, 3 here is 41. That's it. Right, so it's an absolute minimum for the rest of this cage. So this is a 1, 2, 3 triple. Well, I don't know that I want to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 into this U shape, but what I can do is put 8 and 9 in there, and in fact, look, that means that's 9, that's 8 by Sudoku, so that's not 9, that's not 8, that's not 8, there must be an 8 down here now, so these aren't 8, which means that's the 8 in this little congregation. I've got a quadruple in the bottom row. This must be a 1, 2, 3 triple. This must be a 1. Therefore, that's not a 1. There's a 1 vertically in column 5. And what next? The answer to that is I don't know yet. Okay. Ah, no, I do know. Oh, that's lovely. Right, what are those 2 digits? Well, the answer is by Sudoku. They are a 4-5 pair, and they add up to x. So x is 9, which means that's 9. Oh, and now this can't be a 3-cell sequence summing to 9, so that must be shaded. This is brilliant, and therefore those become unshaded. These 2 digits have to add up to 9. That's probably doable somehow, but I can't see how to do it. I've almost shaded the whole puzzle, I'm realising. So I've almost done the sort of the shaded bit of it. 15 and... Oh, that this is a 15 and 11, and the shadedness side of it has to add up to 15, and there's a 9 in the column, so that's 7 and 8, which means that's a 9. And that means, so 9 is in one of those two positions now. And, oh, this is shaded, so that's got to be the 7 in this cage up here. Gosh, I think if you did a few of these, you'd get really quite proficient at them. So far, I'm not proving myself to be proficient, but I'm still gradually getting through it. Look, 9 can be placed in box 3 over here. So we're getting to the point where we've almost done all the 9s. In fact, there's a 9 for us in that box by Sudoku. So we've now done almost all of them. That can't be a 9. So there's a 9 in one of these two cells and a 9 in one of those two cells, and we're going to have to figure out how we work that out in due course. Now, what next? 6 is in one of these two cells by Sudoku. Not sure where to look here. It's probably going to be it's probably going to be where these two cells add up to 11, and they're not 3, 8 or 2, 9. So these are either 4, 7 or 5, 6. Can we tell which? Oh, they're not 6. They haven't got 6 in because of that 6. There's a 6 here and a 7 here. So this is a 4, 7 pair, which looks very peculiar. You've got repeated 7s in this cage. Now, the effect of that, of course, is that none of those digits can be a 7. In row 4, you can't put a 7 in there because of the 4, 7. You can't put a 7 here because of the 7 here. So there's a 7 in one of those two cells, which means we have got a 7, 9 pair in this row, which I'd like to resolve but don't know if I can. And now those 3 digits add up to x without involving 4 or 6. So they're 1, 3, 5. That's the only way of doing that. There are 3 ways of making 9 in 3 cells: 1, 2, 6, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 3, 5, and we've ruled out all but 1, 3, 5 of them. So that cell at the top is now a 2. These cells are now known. They've got to be 1, 4, and 8. So that's not 1. That cell is now not 1 or 4 because it sees the 1, 4 pair here. So that might be useful. I still don't know which of these is shaded, I don't think. Oh, that one's a 4. I've just noticed it sees an 8 in the column. So we know now that's green. So one of these two now is the 8. And it's still not telling us which one of those it is. Okay, so how do we do this and get a bit further? There's a 1 in one of those, so the 1 in box 2 is in one of these two cells, which means that that cell's not a 1. 4, 5, these cells are from 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, here's the question. No, in fact that's wrong what I've just done there, because there's a 4, 5 pair. 1, 2, 3 and 6 is what they're from. That's much less good. But does it allow us then to conjecture the value of this? It does, because we know this domino adds up to 9, so that can't be 6 anymore, because then this would have to be a 3, and that would clash with the 1, 2, 3. So this square is 6, 7 or 8. And we know it's not 7 because there's a 7 in one of those, so this isn't 2. So this is either 8, 1 or 6, 3. And now we've got a 6, 8 pair here, which means those two squares are a 4, 5 pair in box 4. And those 4s align, look, with these, knock 4 out of this cell, which gives me a 1, 2, 3 triple in the row and forces that to be a 6 somehow. Is that going to be good enough? Oh, I see, right. Yes, it is. Because look, this being a 6 means these two squares have to add to 11, so they have to be 7 and 4. which makes that 5, this 9. Now there was something going on, wasn't there, between those? Oh, these had to add to 15, so that's now a 6, which makes that an 8, which makes that a 1, which means this is no longer a 1. There's a 1 in here, so that's no longer a 1. There's a 2, 3 pair here, so this is a 1 or a 4. It's outrageous, by the way. rockratzero and agent making me do Sudoku in a Sudoku puzzle is, as you well know, very devious indeed. That's a 4, or that's a 7, so that's a 7, that's an 8. So that's an 8 by Sudoku, and this has got to be 2, 3, or 5. And it's a 5, therefore, because there's a 1, 2, 3 triple in the row, which makes this a 3, this a 2, that's a 3. So we've got a 1, 2 pair here, which must lead up to a 3, 4 pair at the top. And I think, slowly but surely, we are getting there, aren't we? So how do we finish this off? It could still be a problem. This would be a disaster. Although Mark hasn't tested this, so it's a good enough puzzle. It definitely needs to appear on the channel. So if there is a mistake here, and I can't finish this, I'm going to send it to Mark. But you'll never hear that if that's the case, which will be weird. But anyway, that's a 4 by Sudoku. This is a 4, this is a 3. Is that going to work somehow? Probably. What about... Oh, that's a 3 by Sudoku. There's a 5 in the column, which makes that the 9 and that the 5. So this is no longer a 3, which means this is a 1 or a 2, and it can't be a 1. So we go 2, 1. This is from 2, 3, and 6. Ah, that cell can only be a 6 then. It sees a 2, 3 pair. So that's a 2, 3 pair, which means this cell's a 1, 4 pair, which makes this cell a 5, which we could have got in a different way, I've just noticed, but that's how we decided to do it. These are 3, 5, and 6. That's not 3. Oh, the 7 in this 21 has to go there. So this is 6, 8. There we go. 6, 8. 8 goes in there at the top. Now remember, this has got to be shaded. So that's finished the shading of the, what was it, Shimaguru or Shimaguni part of the puzzle. That 1's giving us the 1 and the 4. We haven't got a 5 in this column, so let's put that in. That gives us a 5 and a 4 and a 2, 3 pair here. So this column needs 7 and something. I haven't seen what that is yet. It might be 5, yeah. So that's 7. That's 5. This is a 2. Ah, this is now a 2, which makes that a 3. Which makes that a 2, that a 1, that a 1, and that a 5. And that all looks like it's making sense. So 3 and 2 go in there. 3 and 2 go in there. 2 and 1 go in here. This can't be a... This got to be a 6, 5, 3. 3, 2, 7. I need to put a 4 in this box and a 1, and I think that looks like it might be correct. Let's click tick. Yay! Isn't that wonderful? That's exactly the sort of thing that I'm looking for. It's just, it's really interesting, but there's a lot of logic to do, but none of the logic is that brutally hard. It's just very fun, very satisfying to figure out, and it's very clever as well how these, you know, these instances, the fact that we didn't know the grey count in this box, for example, actually forced where we had to put the greys in this enormous cage. And that was really, I think, the big breakthrough, because it gave us so many 1s, 2s and 3s dotted around the place. But there was something over there I really liked as well. Oh yeah, it was the 10 cage, because it suddenly touched a 3 shaded cell 21 cage. That's a lot to admire in that. It's really lovely, really lovely. So rockratzero and agent, I look forward to your next collaboration. I hope you enjoyed the puzzles, and hope we might see you later on the stream. And we'll be back for another Sudoku video as well, with Mark's video later tonight. Thanks for watching.